the way I look at it is like, I'm not trying to hoodwink anybody with this stuff. We need to be realistic about the potential. We need to be realistic about the risks so that we can manage it appropriately. And if it's not an appropriate product for somebody, I'm not going to recommend it. I definitely need to believe in my heart that we're looking at the right product and that it could work for them. I meet with people all the time where I'm like, stick with what you got, or look to this, or it might not be the right time for that. Like, I'm not just meeting with people to try to sell them and trying to figure out any way possible to sell them insurance, even though that is where my income comes from. But I'm fortunate that I have enough of a popularity here on YouTube that I get plenty of business, and I don't need to worry about trying to sell something that just in order to pay my bills, right? I'm not in that position. So it allows me to design the best possible designs, lowest possible cost for the clients, and the minimum commission for me, as long as that's the best design, which I get into this, I think, in tomorrow's video a little bit. That's often the case. In fact, I would say 99.9% of the time, a reduced commission design is going to be optimal for the client. It's obviously not optimal for the agent, but if you do enough business, then it all works out in the end. And I happen to do a lot of business. My channel has brought in quite a bit of business. I think back to when I first started in this industry, and I would spend 2 hours, well, basically almost 4 hours a day driving to the nearest big city where I was buying leads to meet with educators. And then I would have to try to educate them on these products. I didn't have videos at the time. And so imagine me, or imagine yourself, trying to talk to people in person and convey all the stuff that I end up having to convey via these videos, and try to convince them that might work for their situation. How many trips do you have to do? How many meetings do you have to go through? More than one, for sure. And I'm driving a couple of hours back and forth to do it. I think I put close to 80,000 miles on my car in about a year and a half, driving back and forth, doing that. Now, when I was doing that, could I get away with designing the designs that I'm doing now? I don't know that I could. I don't know that it would have been worth it, because it's a lot longer to get from beginning of the sales process to the end of the sales process with each client. There's a lot more hours involved. There's a lot more expenses involved. I'm paying for leads. I'm paying for gas, wear and tear on my vehicle, insurance. I mean, all of those things factor into it, right? Certainly probably account for the risk of getting into an accident or getting a ticket into that. So there's definitely some things to be concerned about that make it a lot harder to sell a policy that I might only make a few $100s on or $1,000 on. Now, as it turns out, when I design policies like this, and I have a national reach with my YouTube channel, I encounter people with a lot more money. And obviously the designs that we do attract people that are wanting to put in a lot of money. And even though we're still at the minimum commission design, these folks are designing policies that can put in a lot of money. Every once in a while, I mean, it's not just going to be the minimum amount of commission. So like in an Allianz policy, we can do a 10-to-1 split. Well, a lot of the designs I do are right at that 10-to-1 split. Some of them are even lower than that because they're not interested in going above that. But it does scale up. And sometimes we do policies that are higher than the bare minimum there. And so I can make more than just the minimum amount. It's the minimum for that design, but it's more than just the lowest I could possibly make on that product, right? And so it ends up working out good. I make good money. I don't have all of the expenses. I don't have to pay for gas. I meet with everybody via Zoom. The videos help in the sales process because you get educated before we meet. It just works out. It ends up working out really well. And so from a business model perspective, this has been wildly successful and everybody wins. My clients win because they get the best design policies at the lowest cost. I win because I just work with more people and I end up with more referrals, and ultimately my commission is low, but I can make a bunch of them, and it offsets, and it works out great. You definitely won't see me complaining. So it's funny because I often get people asking me, how can I do this? Why do I do this? Because the policy that they're bringing to me is like a $15,000 commission. And then the one I designed for them is a $1,500 commission. Like, that's a huge drop. Now, if I was only selling a couple of policies a year, I would probably need to have that higher commission design. But it's kind of a spiral that you get stuck in. If you think you're only going to sell a couple of policies a year and you only put forth those poor designs that pay out the high commission, there's a limited number of people that want to buy that product, and you're going to have to sell. You're going to have to sell it. The product doesn't sell itself in that situation, right? Whereas with the proper design, the product sells itself. It's a lot easier to convince people to put a lot of money into a product if they're going to have access to most of it right away, if they're not losing access to that, if their surrender charges aren't massive, if there's flexibility for them to be able to withstand a chaotic financial event, right? People aren't going to commit large dollars amounts to policies if they think that there's a chance that they can encounter financial turbulence in their lives and suddenly they just lose everything. That everything in that policy goes away because there was no cash value in it for the first couple of years, or very little, which is often the case in our bad designs. It's a no-brainer. People should reach out to me for a policy because of how I design them and educate people and be very transparent. Yeah, and that's like the backbone of my business. You know, we're all about transparency here. It's all just about education. I think if we have the right products available and we design them the absolute best way that they can, there's not much selling that has to happen. Sometimes we have to overcome, some actual legitimate logistical problems that people might have, right? But if we can figure out if this is the right product to meet their needs and they're properly educated about it, the product sells itself. That's the way I view it. And that's not going to work out for everybody. I'm going to encounter people that decide this is not the right product for them because they run into a salesman that convinces them something else. I hope to do some more live streams. I really want to try and do at least one a week where we can answer questions, because there's things that pop up all the time. So if you're interested at all in this space, if you have questions, I don't care if you're a client or if you're another agent, this is a great place to get educated. Write your questions down, come on my live streams, and let's have a discussion.
I hope you found value in today's video. If you'd like to find out more about IUL and whole life, check out these videos right over here, and we'll see you next time.
Now go maximize your cash flow.